Instructions for filling out Form I-589 are provided line by line below. We shall move on from questions in this debate if the solution is self-evident. If you can prove that you would be tortured if returned to your country of origin, you should check the box near the top that says, Note. Check this box if you also want to apply for withholding of removal under the Convention Against Torture. In the next section, Part B, you must also choose the Torture Convention. The first question. You will need to establish that it is more probable than not that you would be tortured if you were taken from the United States in order to gain enhanced protection on this basis. Why this is a good backup plan for those seeking asylum, withholding of removal, or Convention Against Torture protection explains why this is a good idea. And the procedure for seeking refugee status under the Convention Against Torture. Part A. I. Information about you. While the majority of the questions in this section are fairly self-explanatory, we will discuss a few that may need clarification. The first question. A number, or alien identification number. A numbers are 8 or 9-digit numbers that begin with the letter A, and you will only have one if you have previously applied to uscis for a certain kind of benefit or status, such as a work permit as an F1 student or a case involving removal, deportation procedures. What is the second question? Taxpayer identification number, Social Security number. If you have a valid number from the Social Security Administration, put that here. I have a third question. Unless you have already registered to submit certain sorts of applications to uscis online, the likelihood that you already have a uscis online account number is low. If you don't have a Twitter, just leave this blank. For the next 9 questions. Your name, address, and other identifying information. If you entered the United States under a different name, you must now use that name going forward. If you do not have 3 names, first, middle, last, leave the space for whichever name it is blank, do not write none, or uscis might think your actual name is none. Write, same as above, in the first line of the address and phone number questions if they match your physical address and phone number. Do not skip this and move on. The rest should be fairly obvious. Question 10. Gender. If you are transgender or your asylum claim involves matters of gender identity such that choosing either male or female is no simple matter, write an asterisk here and say, see supplement. Then make sure to further explain this in your supplementary statement, either in Supplement B or on a separate affidavit you provide. What is the 11th question? Family composition. This refers to your legal status, not your current living situation. I have a question number 12. Date of birth. If you don't know your exact date of birth and can't find any supporting documentation, enter your best guess or write unknown. Mark the appropriate box and provide additional details in Supplement B to the form or a separate supplement you prepare. Inquiries 13 and 14. Self-explanatory. Question 15. Inheritance of a nationality. You will need to provide your birth country's name here. If you are appealing for asylum as a citizen of a different country than the one in which you were born, you should be prepared to answer questions about why you cannot or will not return to your native country. We have question number 16. Race, ethnic, or tribal group. If you are seeking asylum based on race, ethnicity, or tribal affiliation, insert the name of your group here. Verify that the name on file corresponds to the name on any supporting documentation you intend to submit. If you need extra room to clarify, utilize Supplement B. To wit, these may include a business license, a contractor's license, and a pesticide applicator's license. If you are applying for asylum based on religion, before you can make sure your answer here matches any evidence that you provide with your application and that you name the specific branch, sect, or denomination. As an alternative to Jewish, a candidate who has experienced religious persecution might write Orthodox Jewish. Question 18. Immigration court proceedings. Consult a lawyer for assistance with your asylum application if you have ever been detained or brought before an immigration judge in removal proceedings. While immigration proceedings are ongoing, you may not be able to file Form I-589 without going through the immigration court. Question 19. Visas and entry into the United States. Be sure to answer this section completely and truthfully even if you entered without inspection or overstayed your visa. If you committed immigration violations while seeking asylum because you feared for your life, the government is unlikely to reject your claim. If you entered the United States on an F1 student or J1 exchange visitor visa, and you were not given an actual expiration date for your status, because you were allowed to stay in the United States until completing your studies, then you should enter DAS for duration of status. For your I-94 number, check the United States Citizenship and Immigration Services website. Website for U.S. Customs and Border Patrol. Questions 2022. Passport information. Put not applicable in any passport-related fields if you don't have one. The correct response is not applicable, however you must provide an explanation for your entry on Supplement B if you have used a fraudulent passport. Issues 23, 25. A person's native language is the language they were raised speaking. If you utilized another language at school or at business, put it in question 25. Do not declare you are proficient in English unless you actually are, and are ready to give up your right to have an interpreter during your asylum interview. Section A.2. Details regarding your family. This is your significant other. If you are not married, tick the corresponding option. Otherwise, please respond fully to questions 1 through 24. Confused about your marital status? It's more convenient to just say yes and hash out the specifics afterward. That way, you help ensure that uscis grants asylum to your spouse if and when you are approved. Question 24 is an important one. If your spouse is in the US, it asks whether your spouse wishes to be included in the application. This literally means that if you are granted asylum in the US, so will your spouse be. If, however, your case is referred to immigration court, your spouse will also end up in removal proceedings and could be deported along with you. If your spouse doesn't desire to face this risk, you may select No to question 24 and submit a Form I-730 for your spouse after your asylum approval. Your children. Even if your offspring are all grown up, please answer questions 121 about each of them. If you have more than 4 children, omitting the names of the dead, please attach Supplement A, Form I-589, to give details about each additional kid. As with your spouse, you will need to decide whether to formally include them in your asylum application. You may answer no and submit a Form I-730 for them when you gain permission. Part A.3. Information about your background. The first question. Please provide your last US address before migrating here. If this country is other than the one from which you fear persecution, provide your last address from your country of origin as well. For example, if you lived in France for a month before coming to the US, provide that address, as well as the address of your last residence in your home country. What is the second question? Where you've lived for the last 5 years. Self-explanatory. This concerns questions 3 and 4. Education and work experience. The description speaks for itself. If you haven't been working, enter something like student or at-home caregiver. Question 5. Parents and siblings, brothers and sisters. Self-explanatory. Part B. Information about your application. In this part, you will be asked questions that will be used to assess if you are eligible for asylum. Provide as much detail as possible, recalling particular occurrences wherever feasible and mentioning dates, names, and places. To submit a credible and successful asylum application, you will need to detail specific instances of persecution that occurred in the past. The first question. This asks about your basis for seeking asylum. To qualify, you need to choose a box in the first 5. If more than one option fits your situation, please select them all. If you are also asking for withholding of removal under the Convention Against Torture, then mark the box under Torture Convention. Initially, I'll take question 1A. In this section, you will be asked about any experiences with physical or verbal abuse. If you or a member of your immediate family, a close friend, or a co-worker has suffered harm or mistreatment, or threats of harm because of the basis for asylum you are applying for and from the country you fear returning to, check Yes. Explain any specific instances of harm or mistreatment, knowing that you will have to match the legal definition of persecution, and include the date, the person, responsible, and any other relevant information. Your asylum application will be strengthened if you include recent events or harm caused by government actors, and provide evidence that these events actually occurred. It is also important to explain why the government was either unwilling or unable to protect you from the damage that was inflicted by a non-state actor, and to say that you think this harm was caused by the reason for asylum for which you are requesting. You should have any references you provide, such as relatives or friends, sign affidavits confirming the information you give. The second part of question 1b. This questions if you fear injury or abuse upon return to your own country. You must check yes here to be eligible for asylum, unless you fall into a rare exception, but don't even consider this without an attorney's guidance. Justify your apprehension by detailing the specific individuals you suspect might subject you to abusive treatment. In this case, the same advice as in the previous one should be followed. What is the second question? There are two goals behind asking whether you have ever been charged, arrested, punished, etc. If you have a criminal record from a country other than the United States, uscis wants to know about it. As an alternative, you may use this opportunity to detail any instances of persecution you or your family members have endured as a direct result of your asylum claim, such as wrongful arrests, interrogations, and incarcerations based on your claimed race or religion. If this describes your situation, please be as detailed as possible when explaining why you or your loved ones were singled out for arrest, prosecution, or confinement. However, you should not submit an asylum application without first consulting with an attorney, as serious non-political crimes are a bar to asylum. Inquiry 3.a. In this section, you'll be asked about the clubs and societies to which you belong. It's another dual-purpose question, which will determine whether you have been a member of a group that has persecuted others or been involved in terrorism, which are also bars to asylum. In such case, you should talk to a lawyer before deciding whether or not to seek refuge. However, this is also your opportunity to demonstrate that you are an outspoken member of your community in matters of politics, religion, activism, or the media. If you are a member of organizations that have been targeted by your government, or by other actors that the government is unwilling or unable to control, list those groups here, as well the extent of your activities in this group and any leadership positions you held. A student activist group president might say something like, "I was the president of a student activist group that protested the government and was later interrogated." Inquiry 3.b. If you or your family members continue to be involved in the groups that you listed in the previous question, check yes, and provide an explanation and evidence. Your continued membership can bolster your asylum claim by showing that you are committed to these groups and cannot simply quit in the face of persecution. So, the fourth question is: concerning torture, please share your thoughts. If you do not believe you will be tortured if you return to your home country, do not answer yes here. It is not a requirement for asylum. However, if you are applying for withholding of removal under the Convention Against Torture, you will need to answer yes to this question and provide a convincing explanation. Part C. Details regarding your application. Additional information. The first question. If you have ever filed for asylum before, please explain why. Your or your family's asylum applications may benefit or suffer from your response. If your situation has changed significantly, you may reapply for asylum. However, if you were rejected due to factors like fraud or a criminal record, it is unlikely that reapplying will change the outcome. If your family members were successful in receiving asylum because of a circumstance that is similar to yours, it might improve your case by establishing that an asylum officer or immigration court accepted their request for refuge. Inquiries 2A and 2B. This asks about your past international travel or residency. The United States Citizenship and Immigration Services, USCIS, needs to know whether you have firmly resettled in a third nation where you would not face persecution if you were to return there. For this reason, it wants to know whether you or your family members traveled through, lived in, or applied for or received an immigration benefit in a third country. If you answered yes to any question, please elaborate on how long you were there and why you decided to leave the nation. Include an explanation for why you did not seek asylum at the time you visited that country. Example, I did not need to apply for asylum when I traveled to France, but I need asylum protection now due to changed circumstances in my home country. During your asylum interview or individual hearing, You can expect to be asked about the status of your asylum or refugee status application in the third country. You will not be eligible for asylum in the United States if you have previously been granted and rejected permanent residency in another nation. I have a third question. You will be ineligible for asylum if you were involved in carrying out activity that is considered persecution. If you need to answer yes here, you will have to provide solid reasons why you participated in these activities. Provide proof to back up your argument, such as publications and reports from human rights monitoring organizations, by saying something like, "In my village, all men over the age of 16 were forced to join guerrilla or paramilitary forces, or else their family members would be killed." So, the fourth question is: if you have ever traveled outside of your home country and then returned, select yes here and describe your trips, including the dates, reasons for leaving, and duration of your stay. UScis may reject your asylum claim if they discover you could have filed it in another country earlier but chose not to. Justify your return to your home country, including any changes in your situation or special circumstances, such as, "I returned because my father was seriously ill and I needed to make sure that he was receiving adequate medical care." Your activities may convince UScis that you don't really dread returning to your native country, regardless of how plausible your stated reasons are. The fifth question. Unless extraordinary circumstances exist, asylum claims must be submitted within 1 year of the applicant's arrival in the United States or, if claiming defensively in court, within 1 year of the applicant's legal status having expired. If you miss the 1-year deadline and still want to apply, you should consult a lawyer because you'll need to provide more evidence. Illness or a change in the political climate of your home country, such that you now fear persecution, would qualify as extraordinary circumstances. Okay, here's a question number 6. UScis will require proof that you have behaved lawfully throughout your time in the country. All applicants must disclose any criminal history in the United States, including arrests, charges, and convictions, for themselves and their immediate families. And definitely consult with an immigration attorney, preferably simultaneously with your criminal attorney, as some criminal attorneys are unaware of the impact a guilty plea can have in immigration terms, as they are focused on minimizing their client's jail time. Part D. Your name here. Copy your name in both the English alphabet and the one you were raised with. Mark yes and enter the details of your spouse, parent, or child if they assisted you in filling out the form. To confirm that you have been informed of your right to counsel, an attorney, and where to find low or no-cost attorneys and organizations that can assist you with your asylum application, Form I-589 asks you to check the box labeled yes if someone else helped you prepare the form. Part E. If someone other than the applicant, spouse, or parent prepared Form I-589, such as an attorney or employee of a non-profit organization, that person must sign the Declaration of Person Preparing Form, section. Part F. Do not complete this section until you have been scheduled for an asylum interview at a local UScis office, and asked to sign it as part of your affirmative asylum application if you are not in removal proceedings. Part G. If you are currently in removal proceedings and filing a defensive asylum application, or if you are subsequently placed into removal proceedings, you will be asked to complete this section in immigration court. Do not complete this section. 2 addenda are included with the main form. Supplement A allows you to name more family members. If there's information you need to provide that didn't have room on the main form, use Supplement B, or you can submit a separate statement that you prepare. Just make sure to put your name and other identifying information on it, in case it gets separated from the main form. Complete Form I-589 and file with UScis or court. Make a duplicate of the application after you've finished filling it out. Where you will submit your application and supporting information will depend on whether you are in removal proceedings or not, and in which state you live. Please review the I-589 guidance provided by UScis. Online filing became an option for applicants who are not in removal proceedings in 2022. You will need to establish a MyUSCIS account, then pick File a Form Online, and, under the drop-down menu, choose I-589, Application for Asylum and for Withholding of Removal. However, the completion of the form is not the final step. You will need to submit documentation with your asylum application to prove your identity, the nature of your persecution, and more. See how to prepare an affirmative asylum application for a checklist, and other helpful information on submitting documents in a language other than English. Currently, there is no cost associated with submitting Form I-589.